Oh, really?
Present.
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 Present. Minutes of previous meeting.
Make a motion to accept the minutes.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Project update. Bob Tina?
Mr. Chairman, the wastewater treatment plant performed well during the month of February, meeting all permit requirements with a flow of 25.18 MGD. We had 4.1 inches of rain. The loadings were fine, hydraulic pumps, discharge was fine, and that's my report.
Anybody have any questions for Bob?
Yes. Are there any maintenance issues that need to be addressed?
Yeah, there's a few, but we're working through them.
Okay, what would those look like?
There's some pumps that need to be rebuilt. We're waiting for parts on them.
Here's Calucci.
And there's parts we're waiting for on one of the generators.
How the clarifiers working?
Clarifiers are all online, they're all working.
Okay. How did we make out in the storm event with flows? How did we manage it? Did we have to off water or?
Yes, we had to use O2 discharge for about 4 hours for flows. We were in excess of 120 MGD,
Okay,
and we lost one local.
okay. Thanks.
No more questions for Bob? Okay, thanks, Bob. Rick, on the water treatment plant?
Mr. Chairman, I live on Soil Commission's compliance with all federal and state drinking water regulations. The water supply capacity as of yesterday was at 79%. The average of this time of year is 82%. 9 of the 10 contract positions are filled in the water treatment plant. Marguerite is still working part-time to fill in any gaps in his operating position that we vacated in August. The water is still looking for a replacement operator.
Any questions for Rick?
How are we making out with the chlorine conversion?
The chlorine conversion project, as I mentioned in the last meeting, we submitted a response to the MEDP on November 13 to address the outstanding administrative and technical issues. I received an email last week on March 6th that containing follow-up questions. We're working on completing them, and we should have that to the MEDP by 2 weeks.
Was it anything substantial, the follow-up?
Just follow up to give us more clarification of what we done.
So that should be back to them in 1 or 2 weeks?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, any questions for Rick? CSO update, who's gonna take that, Danny?
I can start it, certainly. David Van Hoven from Stantec's here, in addition to Tony O'Morrow from Tetra Tech and Ethan Reno. We met for the second time relative to the CSO program on March 1st, and we had an agenda and an outline of the tasks that were completed. They reviewed some of our existing conditions. They did perform aerial photography of the area, where they fly the area. They have upcoming scheduled tasks such as field survey and base mapping, environmental review where they evaluate petroleum sites and different potential contaminated sites. We have boring. We also have existing conditions of model review that's going to be implemented in the near future. Those are some of the simpler topics. The more difficult topics were the hydraulic modeling, the limitation of the sewer separation areas, some routing of the systems, also evaluation of the OO2 outfall. So we do have some more complex and difficult specific items to evaluate as we move forward. But the project's moving forward, and the consultants are here in addition to Anthony, if you have any questions or further comments from them.
Peter?
Yeah, I don't know if this ties into the amendment, you know, on the business, but Anthony or Tony, we had talked about when we do the design, when we're doing the design phase of the consent decree on the bottom here, we're sort of just tying these two together. We talked about adding a couple places to what we have already, and that would be Holton Place, I talked about, and the Camden River Street area that could be included in this consent decree and the CSO project that we're doing. I just know if you could elaborate on that, because we had
Right,
talked
so,
about it.
as you know, Peter and I have been in contact quite a lot in the last few weeks and even months, discussing different scopes of work as far as what the project area is and what other areas we should look at. And like you just mentioned, the River Street, Camden Street area is one to consider. Holton Place was another one that we discussed.
Canal Street
So
too,
these-
part of it.
Canal, yeah. So, at this point in the phase, where we're doing the survey and the preliminary design, these are areas that we're gonna look at. As you said earlier, we've been in contact with each other, talking through some of these things, but we're at the phase where we need to look at everything and we're gonna look at it.
I just asked Tony a question.
Go ahead.
Tony, Arabona.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Tony and Tony. Yeah. Is there a problem doing that, or would that be something that we could integrate into the design phase?
I don't think so at all. Now's really the time to do it because we're evaluating all the hydraulics within the CSO separation areas. And in fact, as part of the MEPA document that was approved for the project, they did mention a couple of other areas to be considered based on some comments and feedback that were given by the public. So I think it's appropriate to look at those now under the program, especially where we're at in the process, the preliminary design.
So we could integrate those, it's good.
There's nothing preventing that from
Okay, so we'd like to do that.
Yeah, there's about 8 to 10 miles of areas that we were gonna survey, provide boring, provide some geotechnical boring, and those areas are going to get done as well. There's 10 miles of roadway, so.
Yeah, no, this is a major project, a big project, but now's the time to do these areas so they're not left out. You know, 'cause we had this big area that was left out originally, and we don't wanna come back to the table here, 10 years from now and having to do that again. So it'd be nice to make sure we have all these areas integrated into the system right now. So is there anything formal that we have to do to ensure that happens, or is that, how does that, I'm not sure how that works.
They'll have to draw something up and they'll have to go out to bids if they're changing it, right?
No, I think we're all
No,
set.
it can go right into the scope of work,
Yeah, I think we're good.
along with the public comments that, that were mentioned, when we started this whole thing all out.
I think you have a new set of eyes looking at the area, and we have a new set of eyes, there's different ideas, there's different areas that haven't been looked at before, that are being looked at now. There are situations where there's areas that we thought we could do X to, we can't any longer, so it's a moving tide, it's shifting, but I think it's part of the scope that we'll look at.
Because, as everybody knows, the infrastructure is just crumbling everywhere, in West
The
Lynn.
most important part of the project.
It's the most important part of the project, you're right. Yeah, even like the end of Canal Street, I know you looked at last week, looks like it's sinking a little bit, so we need to take care of that.
Any other questions? Go ahead, David.
Tonight, we have people here from the community that, when we got our package, were left out. There were only a handful of, not even areas, but a handful of streets that were named, and
It's a good ringtone.
thanks for the background music.
If anybody else has a cell phone, will they please shut it off? Go ahead,
So
David.
there was, when we got our package, there was a correspondence that was going to the parties in the consent decree, the Environmental Protection Agency for the United States of America, Department of Environmental Protection for DEP, as a modification to the consent decree. And the areas that River Street Camden, like Counselor was talking about, was not included in there. Those are areas we've known for a long time need to be separated. They're combined systems with sewage and water. Water from rain events, water from the ocean that comes in, the river mixed water there. And you've had some extreme flooding in those areas where cars were actually floating. We have a duck-bill system that doesn't work. In the process of the consent decree, there was a petition that was filed. The information on this flyer has the petition information on it. That was accepted by Lynn Water and Sewer, DEP, and the EPA. And it asks for River Street that was left out to have a look at what's the unique problem they have with flooding, because yours is unique. It's probably not going to be fixed by what we're doing in the rest of the consent decree by putting a pump station in. And I'm glad to see, are there people from River Street, Camden Street here today?
Yeah.
Put your hands up.
Canal Street.
Canal Street, from that,
Canal.
so,
Canal Street, River Street.
okay. So I'm a Westlander, we always called that the River Street neighborhood, across from GE, between Saugus River and GE where I worked. So I'm glad to see you here. Those people have extreme flooding, they're having damage, there's health effects you can have from the flows they're coming into. And we also have a cross-contamination over surface and through the pipe system into the Saugus River with contaminants. And so that's not allowed by DEP. It's an unscheduled outfall that's not being recorded. So it's important for the environment, it's important for the people. There was people that you could not see the streets down there. I had boots on, the yellow boots that we give to our employees, and they weren't tall enough for me.
They had boats down there too.
Yes, yeah.
The fireman came to my door and wanted to ask me if I wanted to be evacuated.
They wouldn't leave though.
I wouldn't leave.
Yes.
I had 4.5 feet of water on my side.
That's what I had.
But across the way from you, you have some condominiums.
Right, yeah.
Is there anybody from the condominiums here?
Right here.
Okay, the condominiums are across from the GE field?
Yeah.
Okay.
Canal Street.
Canal Street.
Saying they're open.
Canal Street, right behind River Street, on the edge of the
Right,
road.
and you know better.
You can ask anybody in here what we want.
I know,
That's
everybody
what I'm
wants
doing.
something, but I'm
That's
just
what I'm,
saying,
so,
not an open meeting.
okay, so those areas and all those condos on each side of that river, you have flooding, and you have to drive through that. So as the counselor said, he's advocating, and the consent decree, nobody from the commission, nobody from the other parties on the other side said that wasn't warranted and wasn't needed. It was accepted by the court. Munger Henderson III, the judge in the federal court, accepted it. It was signed by us. We're obligated to do it. We have to stop dragging our feet and get that done. We have to move on it. It's a public safety issue. It affects values of property. We also have places throughout the ward that were left out. The closest thing we got to St. Michael's was like Shepherd Street. St. Michael's, we have a veterans monument that's covered in sewage. Very disrespectful, and it needs to be addressed, and it's not listed. That whole neighborhood that was referred to as the Oakville Minot neighborhood is left out. And Oakville Minot neighborhood actually went over to Commercial Street. That's been left out. We have very intense flooding. We have a business district down there. We have schools within there. We need a safety plan. In this document, we asked for a safety plan to be drafted. The safety plan we submitted to the EPA was about 8 single-sided copies on a paper. The main safety part of it was just a list of contact numbers. Commissioners, when I called the fire department, person listed on there, he knew nothing about this, hadn't been contacted at all. What we've asked for here is something that actually one of our contractors knows very well about. CMH2 Hill did a safety plan for Boston. What was asked for by the parties into the consent decree, the neighbors, they asked for that plan to be implemented by us, or a facsimile of it. That document's about half an inch thick. They have meetings, regular meetings, just on safety issues where they meet with all those people, just like this board meets. And they go over the safety plans. It tells us that we have to report the CSOs. We haven't been doing that here. If we don't report the street flooding like we used to in the streets, and we ignore that, and all we do is put out reports that says we have active outflows from the outfalls, we don't qualify for FEMA money because we can't show persistent, ongoing, repetitive, as the statute says, damages being caused. We have to start doing our job on the water and sewer of going out during these events and having the staff to do it, to log all that stuff. Boston's plan's doing it on an iPad. So there's a lot of work to be done.
Peter, you got a question?
Yes. Will you address the Oakville mining area, discussion about that?
Yeah, that's definitely inclusive of the plan.
Yeah, I thought it was.
Yeah,
I don't see it
Yeah,
named.
yeah.
No, it is.
We named 5 streets. Those streets weren't on there. All we submitted in what we saw that we got in our package that we're sending, the most recent document, was 5 names of streets.
No, just to correct, there's 5 projects. That we signed up for $106 million combined sewer overflow
Right.
project. So there's 5 projects. So they called one Project A, B, C,
C,
D, E,
right.
whatever. Project A is Bennett Street sewer separation. It involves 6 miles of sewer separation. St. Michael's, South Street, Bennett Street, all the way up to
Right.
GE, all that area is getting separated if need be. That's just the name of the project. Granted, we didn't call it Oakville Street, but it's, Bennett Street, and that's all inclusive of that whole
Right.
area, including St. Michael's.
Right.
In the document you sent, if those were the areas to be done, you should have used the A, B, C, et cetera, that was in the other document. And that's not what we received. We received
Go ahead, Peter.
just a few streets.
So can I make a motion that we ensure that the Oakville Minot Street area that Commissioner Ellis is talking about, the Canal, Camden River Street area, and Holton Place are included in
And
the
Boston
project?
Street by the Lido.
Yeah, I think all those areas they're not named the way you're describing, but I think they're all in there. My point of the motion is just to ensure that,
Most definite.
with all the people here, just to ensure them, so they feel like they are included in the project too.
All
That's
right, we
the
have a
the
motion on
purpose
the
of the
table.
motion.
Do we have a second
Yeah.
on the motion? Do we have a
Second.
second? Motion made and seconded. Discussion on the motion? Go ahead, Dave.
Okay. As I said, the last document we had did not define the problem that you're having in the River Street, Camden Street area. And I don't see that as being the Shepherd Street. And if you're gonna put out documents on behalf of the board, use something that's recognizable to both us and the parties. If you have I know I've seen the A, B, C, et cetera. When I saw something else being put in there, it's concerning. We've never referred to them by streets way off from the areas that somehow they're supposed to connect to the other geographic areas. So that needs to be done. And these things that weren't done, backflow preventers for ratepayers. Why are we having people with low income have to buy those? That's our sewage going in their homes. You should take a look at this as an attachment to our consent decree.
Danny, didn't we have a program where people could,
Yes,
and that was all put in effect? That's quite a few years ago.
yes.
We had a program where people could pay a lot of money to have it done.
No, it was paid for by the water and sewer, I believe.
I haven't seen that.
Up to $500. Reimbursement
Up
up to
to.
$500.
Up to.
Reimburse them up to
Which
500.
which
Okay.
probably doesn't get you one. So if you can take another look in the filing that we're doing for the consent decree and see that the neighbors' concerns are taken care of, that would be warranted. And we're gonna have to increase our manpower because the 5 guys and 2 trucks isn't enough. During the flooding, I was out there, you couldn't put out enough barriers to provide for the safety of people. Trucks were running them over, the traffic was unbelievable. People from other communities didn't know how to get from one city even to another. Down by GE Field, it was like a river going across there. Cars got swept away to the curb and were rescued. It's some of the worst I've seen.
All right, we have a motion on the table, seconded. Want to call the roll?
Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner Fuji?
Yes.
Commissioner Ellis?
Yes.
Commissioner Fujian?
Yes.
And Commissioner Trahan?
Yes. All right, motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to make a motion that the public comments be implemented, that the public put in the consent decree.
I'll second.
What was the motion?
To have the implementation of the public comments that were entered into the consent decree by the public and accepted by the parties.
I'll second that.
Wait a minute. Can we do this, Sam, or?
If the United States Department of Justice, the U.S. Attorney, the Attorney General of the United States, the DEP, and the EPA all agree, they're the other parties to the consent decree.
Or we can't just,
They included them, though, in the letter there, didn't
If
they?
that was the case, then
Yeah.
it's superfluous.
This is the public information. They accepted, the court accepted it already.
Then,
But I'm saying something beyond that. Can we actually, because we're not working towards it, can we actually do it? The commission.
I think everything on there is perfectly reasonable.
Well, that's what the courts thought. That's what our people thought on our side of the table, and we all accepted it, and the director signed it for us. But we have to start moving towards doing it.
Okay, second the motion.
all right, motion made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Now, Sam, we can legally vote for this, right?
excuse me?
We can legally vote for this. I
You can
mean,
vote
it's
for it,
already,
but the
it's
consent
already through the
decree has
court.
got more parties than the Lynn Water and Sewer Commission. And anything that gets filed in the court has to be signed off by all those agencies.
And that was done. That was done, Sam.
Okay, roll call.
If it was done, it was done.
Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner Fuji?
Yes.
Commissioner Ellis?
Yes.
Commissioner Fujian?
No.
And Commissioner Trahan?
Yes. Okay.
Immediate reconsideration.
Go for it.
Second.
Okay, motion made and second for reconsideration.
Yes.
Roll call.
Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner Fuji?
Yes.
Commissioner Ellis?
Yes.
Commissioner Fujian?
Yes.
And Commissioner Trahan?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay, new business. You gonna take the budget, Dave, or?
I just want,
Oh, wait a minute.
just one
Go ahead.
question.
Go ahead.
One thing I thought of here, with all the flooding that's been going on for, the last couple months, the January storm and the last storm, if the city was able to set up we have committees for everything, job training, economic development, and with all the recent flooding and especially the river coming over the top and the work we're doing here with the water and sewer, we're looking into setting up like a committee to look at the rising seawater levels, and we're talking about inviting the Saugus Watershed, someone from the mayor's office possibly, someone from the community, and maybe someone from the commission. So I'm just throwing that out there, that we may be asked to do that. We're trying to set that up with the city, because it seems like, the 100-year storms are coming every couple of months. So it may be something that we should, and even the governor is starting to look at this now, so it may be helpful if we were a part of that, going forward. So, we don't need a motion, but I'm just throwing it out there to let you know,
Okay.
we're gonna be asked, and somebody with some expertise, should be part of that group. I think it would be helpful, going forward.
Go for it, Dave.
I believe, if I'm accurate, in the design for the project, we were told by the government that to look at over an 8-year period, a 3-foot rise in the sea elevations, I think was one of the things they were mentioning, which is substantial. And it just shows that we have to look long-term at, what we're doing and get good data, but we have a large company, actually two companies that can do that engineering.
Yeah. One of the things that's going on is, I mean, with a lot of the flood damage in some of the surrounding towns, and especially on the South Shore, people lost whole houses. So if we start a group like that can actually be effective, that has that type of expertise, we can hopefully get ahead of the curve before we have those types of situations confronting us now. They're even talking about putting a gate up there in the ocean somewhere. I don't know where they're gonna put it, but, I mean, those are the types of conversations that are starting to come up right now,
We'll
so.
have Danny get in touch with the mayor and see what's going on, and, maybe we can put one of our engineers or somebody on the committee.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, and on that regard, I am a member of the emergency management team with the
That's
mayor's
right.
office, the
Yeah.
police, fire, ISD, DPW parking. Commissioner Capano was on the conference call a few times.
Yeah.
And relative to, I had trucks loaded up with barricades, horses to horse some of the areas here that were gonna experience some flooding when we got the 3-foot tidal surges. We had a high tide at 11.5 and a 3-foot surge, so we anticipated, everyone in the phone call knew unfortunately, there were gonna be some areas of flooding. So I had dump trucks ready with horses, and I don't know if you were there, but Lieutenant Paul Ricci from the fire department and Captain Reddy from the police department said they have jurisdiction over blocking off roadways. I do not have that jurisdiction.
Can't. We
So I
tried
dropped
to,
off-
stop them, the cars just do not
I
listen, they
dropped
run you
off
over.
horses and
Right,
had
I
them
know
there.
that. I know.
I don't have the authority to block roads.
Right.
Okay.
The other thing is, we have the National Guard, we had 2 high water vehicles just in case. We didn't need them
Right,
for this
right.
storm, thank God, but they were there just in case, because we needed a boat that time, the last
Yeah,
storm
I-
there.
I-
Yeah, so,
This has been going on, I'm 87 years old, and I can't see anything that has been done to change that, to make it any better.
well, we're gonna
I
try.
lived 87 years in that area, I was born on River Street. And the only time I ever left the area is when I went to the military back in around Second World War and Korea. And I came back, and what do I come back to? I said, I figured there'd be a lot of changes made, but nothing has been done in that area. That's all we do is have floods. I've lost 2 boilers since January. 2 boilers, 2
How
hot
come
water
we're not
heaters,
picking on that? Robert's rule, we're
washing
not supposed to
machine,
be speaking.
dryer, and everything in my cellar. We had 12 feet of water in it. That's the
But
second time from
we're not
January
supposed to allow him to speak.
to
It's not an
March,
open
now
meeting.
here, February.
You can ask anybody you want.
No, Yep.
All right.
Okay, we're going to the next item, will
Sir.
be the yeah.
Good. I just want to thank you for your service to the country, and we have to do something to make that the service from our commission to honor you by getting this done.
No, you're very welcome, sir.
Thank you, thank you. But everybody understands that nothing happens overnight. These are big projects, so they have to go through the engineering, and it's a lot of red tape and a lot of money. All right, everybody else set? All right, Dave, you want to take the budget?
So in your packages was the proposed fiscal 2019 budget schedule. Not looking for any action from the board this evening, informational only. If anybody would like to speak to myself, Deanie, Ryan Boiselle, between now and when we first distribute the budget, please give us a call if there's any concerns or issues. As was statutorily required, according to the Navy legislation, we'll be distributing the budget to the mayor, city council, and yourselves May 4th. And the only date to maybe jot down, so it's in your schedules, we're scheduling a public rate hearing on June 6th, here at the commission at 6 p.m.
Okay, any questions for Dave? Okay, we don't need to vote on that. Amendments to the consent decree. You've taken that,
I guess I can. As you recall, the original plans for the CSO facility plan was we're gonna have a 7-foot by 10-foot box culvert discharging out through the ocean through some waterfront property. Through a collaborative effort with Tony Albono, when he was with CH2M Hill and myself and Anthony, we evaluated the option of using 002, which is the inner outfall at the treatment facility. We're gonna save millions of dollars, we're no longer gonna use that outfall pipe, we're gonna use 002. So we talked about it, and I have the minutes here, in March of 17. In April of 18, we also talked about it. In May of 17, we submitted a notice of project change to the regulatory agencies, saying we're no longer gonna do this, because the facilities plan and the consent order included a 7-foot by 10-foot box culvert. We didn't know the exact location, but that was the plan. So in May of 17, the notice of project change said, wait a minute, guys, we're gonna change the plan. This is our new approach, this is our philosophy. They approved it in October of 17. We put it into the RFP for professional engineering services, and these two gentlemen here are handling those services, and they're fully aware. And now the EPA and DEP would just like to memorialize amendment to the consent order relative to the elimination of that large diameter pipe with the utilization of 002 as our outfall. So that's, and we talked about it in January. We didn't make the January meeting, we had a problem in February with a storm, we didn't meet. So now they asked if we could get this approved in March. Mr. Bono has reviewed it, so has Mr. Peter Vaughn, help me out? Van Hoven, sorry. And Anthony and the entire staff, Sam has reviewed it, Dave Fathers. So all we're doing is strictly amending the consent order relative to the outfall discharge.
So we need a motion to,
Yes.
Do-
And it's in your package, it's 3 pages.
Yeah.
And again, as Commissioner Ellis said, the 5 projects are just, it doesn't specify Oakville, but benefit services.
Can I see the document?
Sure, thanks. Sure. You got a copy of the package, right?
Yeah, it just didn't sound like the one I looked at.
It's what?
It didn't sound like the one I looked at.
Okay.
same one I got. Okay, somebody wanna make a motion?
Motion to adjust this.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Roll call,
On the motion?
discussion on the motion, go ahead, Dave.
Okay. Yeah, as I stated, the concern was that you just mentioned Commercial Street, Bennett Street, Shepherd Street. And that does not define all the areas. But we've corrected that, and we have an understanding of that tonight. So it's good that we got together, and it's good that the people came out and lobbied for what they need from the commission for safety. And so we're also gonna look at the duct bill down at the outfall that we're flowing through and discharging. It's an unnamed discharge. We used to have a flapper valve there. Now, wasn't there somewhere that you sent us something in the packet that talked about also as something being sent to them, we were changing the hiring practices?
Changing the
And a-
hire.
Yeah, and a correspondence to them?
I don't have any idea. Buffin else, the HR guy, he typically handles that.
Bob, did we get anything on that?
On what, David?
On how the hiring practices were gonna be done under the CMOM? Okay, so that the board wasn't gonna be hiring people for this, did that get slipped into the CMOM? Okay,
We're gonna hire, we got people we're gonna hire, hopefully in a couple minutes.
right, but I'm saying, okay, so then I don't know where I got that document from. Okay, so that isn't in there.
Motion on the table, motion seconded, roll call.
Commissioner McDonald?
Yes.
Commissioner Tucci?
Yes.
Commissioner Ellis?
Yes.
Commissioner Fujian?
Yes.
And Commissioner Tucker?
Yes. Okay, new hirees. Who's gonna take that? You taking that, Bobby?
As you know, our superintendent of schools, Larry Harris, 32 years of service, retired last month. And we need to hire package is self-explanatory. I've given you our recommendation for the water and sewer drainage supervisor, and I've also, unfortunately, we're still waiting for some more background checks to come in. Provided you with the 4 names that I believe are some candidates that we vetted for the construction workers that are in front of you. And we advertised, we had 15 people apply for the construction workers class 3, and we've interviewed ones that we felt were capable of doing the job and has all the credentials, as well as same as the water and sewer superintendent. So the names are in front of you, and looking for positive.
So wish of the board.
I think he's looking for 2 votes. The first vote would be
You're
his
gonna separate
recommendation
them.
to
It's gonna be
support
two.
Neil Johnson for the superintendent of sewer system drainage and operations. And then the second vote would be for the hiring of 4 third-class construction workers, and the names are in front of you, of the 4 gentlemen that Bob has interviewed, queried, checked the references, he's gone through the process, and those are his 4 recommendations, in addition to Neil Johnson as the sewer superintendent. So I think you need 2 separate votes.
Which were we taking first?
We're taking
Whichever you want.
superintendent of sewer.
Are we gonna ask for the names of who we're voting for, Mr. Chairman?
You can say the name of the person if you want to call it, we'll call it that way.
So the one person that put. that
Yeah,
put
we're,
in front of you is-
we're under the state law, we're the hiring authority, so we know who the candidates are. And Dan had said that I think it was around the time when he gave him his last raise, he said that he would be giving that information like we had in the past onto us, the people that had put in for the jobs.
Well, again,
I'm not,
as the HR person, I believe
I'm not-
it's confidential information, and I can't really deny that to you.
names of people is not confidential,
The names of people that have applied,
Yeah.
confidential, straight on, exactly
no.
on the.
I didn't ask you a question, and you're
All
not a
right,
board
Dave.
member.
All right.
So can we call a roll?
Call a roll. Now,
Well-
if you're gonna vote, I guess you guys come up and recommend
My recommendation was Neil
Neil
Johnson.
Johnson.
Neil Johnson.
Mr.
Okay.
So,
I make a motion that,
But there's no motion, it's already been made and
Okay,
seconded.
and
So
then I'm
is
gonna
it-
speak
gonna
on the
call
a
a
motion.
yes, no, or a name?
You're gonna say a name.
Okay,
Okay.
I'm gonna speak on the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Speak on the motion, Dave.
Okay. I went back through historically my records of the different hirings of people that we've done. And we have a new qualification requirement that is particular to one applicant, that there be a bachelor's degree. And if that was the case, Larry Harris would have never been qualified, our last superintendent. Well, this is his application he put in, does not have a bachelor's degree. We at one time then went to a process where we said it would be desirable to have a bachelor's degree, but it wasn't required. This time, without the board, it's been decided that an in-house person that is the only candidate that is an in-house person that has that degree would be the person that would be qualified. We have had, going back probably 30 years, that I could see that this was a union position. We would take a worker that had worked in there a long time, and we would move him forward if he had the other qualifications. But all that stuff being aside, I cannot vote for your recommendation from the engineering department, especially because some of the important things we're doing with the EPA is doing the CMOM program and doing the reporting of overflows. When that one application for that person came in for him to get an upgrade, the one that was recommended, he did not have the licenses he was supposed to have. I don't believe he still has the licenses he was supposed to have. And the reporting of the flooding, all we're getting for reporting to the EPA in violation of what's required from them is that the outfalls were active. We're not getting a map of all the street flooding, So all these people that are in floodwaters, none of it's recorded and passed on. And that being the case, to have somebody have more oversight on the direct construction, flood work, and all that safety in the streets, that will be somebody, I can't take those qualifications and say that just because of a bachelor's degree. It says, that's great, and all the sins of us not being able to qualify for federal funds, because we can't show repetitive flooding out in the neighborhoods that these people live in, so that they can make application, because we haven't documented it properly as we're supposed to. But I hope that when we move forward with the new program of doing the CMOM, and then we do the safety program, which is part of the reporting, and we do it on electronic devices to say, I was here, I looked, and I logged it, and how many gallons, and what the flows were. If we use that Boston plan, we'll be in compliance. We should be in compliance. That should be the goal.
Okay. The motion on the table, call the roll, so we have to call a name.
Neil Johnson.
Commissioner Fucci?
Neil Johnson.
Commissioner Ellis?
Mike Besenti.
Commissioner Fudian?
Neil Johnson.
Commissioner John?
Neil Johnson. Just a couple of things here. I mean, Neil Johnson has worked for the Lynn Water and Sewer for, I really don't know how many years, but it's a lot of years. So it isn't like, you know, and he works in the engineering department, and he does have a degree. So he is very well qualified for this job. And what we need at this present time, with all the problems, are people that are qualified. So I just want to let everybody know that.
Mr. Chairman.
And I agree with that, Mr. Chairman.
All right,
I've been
all right,
here
all right.
a long time, and I know his qualifications.
Okay, all right.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Dave.
In the wisdom of the commissions past, we looked at people that actually worked in the holes doing the work. They had the safety training, they had the experience, they knew the system.
Just let it go. Right? Just
So
let it go.
But,
Hey,
for the-
hey, come on.
but this person has gotten the vote for that. He knows what my criticisms are. I hope those are corrected, and he works to do so, and he ensures the safety of those employees. Your prime thing is to take care of these people
Okay, now, the hiring of
and their
the,
flooding.
construction workers, the 4 people that you interviewed and did the testing on them, we're gonna take a vote on them.
Yes.
We're gonna just take them as a 4.
Correct.
We're gonna hire the 4 and that's it. So we just call it yes or no for a roll. Okay, so we need a motion to,
Motion to hire these 4.
Second.
motion made and seconded. Discussion on the motion? Go ahead, Dave.
Can we hire about 8 more?
We'd like to, Dave, but
Well-
as long as you come up with the money. Because
Well,
if we tell all these people their rates are gonna double, then, you know,
well, that wouldn't happen from hiring 4 people.
well, I hope not, I hope not.
We're,
Okay, there's a motion on the table, it's seconded.
Okay.
And this is a legitimate discussion on the motion.
okay. So
Roll
just-
call.
Wait, do I get to have discussion on the motion?
Yeah, you just had discussion.
No, you cut me off, I'm sorry about that. 4 guys are not adequate being hired to do the safety for what we need to do. We used to have 30 guys, there's a picture out in the other room of a large truck. We had 30 guys in that one department, and then we had the water people. And when we had flooding, both crews would come in and do the safety. We have to get back to that 30 guys, and maybe even past that, because we're seeing a lot worse than we've ever seen historically. And it's getting dangerous. We have to do that safety plan. It's a good start, though. We're moving.
We're
we got
going in the
4
right
more.
direction.
Yes.
Right.
We got 4, now we
Okay.
need 26 more.
Yep.
Now,
Duly noted.
there's a motion on the table, it's seconded, call the roll. This is to hire the 4 people that were interviewed.
Commissioner Scarpelli?
Yes.
Commissioner Fucci?
Yes.
Commissioner Ellis?
Yes.
Commissioner Fudian?
Yes.
And Commissioner Trahan?
Yes. New business. Hearing nothing, then
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Got a question for the.